Lieutenant La'an didn't come to the party for Una in the captain's quarters. Sam Kirk's real first name is George, and Commander Pelia still has a bunker in Vermont in case this no-money socialist utopia thing turns out to be a fad. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Seventh Rule with Cirroc Lofton.
Hello, hello.
My name is Ryan T. Husk, and today we're doing a review of Star Trek Strange New Worlds, Season 2, Episode 3, Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow. Written by David Reed, directed by Amanda Rowe, and what do you know? What a surprise, what luck. We have the director of the episode here today, Amanda Rowe. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Also, very quickly, this entire season of Strange New Worlds is sponsored by our good friend, Anna Post. Thank you so much, Anna, and congratulations on the new cadet. Yeah. How you guys doing today?
Great.
Doing great.
Well, let's just
love this episode.
Yeah, let's just get into this first and foremost. There's so many questions to ask you that are very specific to you and to this episode. First and foremost is, you said you grew up in Toronto, which makes you highly suited to direct this episode. Did that play into the decision of having you direct this specific episode, or was that just the luck of the draw?
I think it must have. It must have. I mean, from what I understand, this was originally supposed to be the premiere, and Akiva was going to direct it. But then like scheduling got all weird, and they were like, Amanda, because she's from Toronto, and so she's got to do the Toronto episode. So, which was very exciting. There's not a lot of Canadian directors on like big network shows or whatever. There's not a lot of us, so it's like, oh, there's one. Let's put her on.
That's interesting that you say that, because it did feel almost like a premiere type of episode, like a big episode. Yeah, that kind of leads me to my question, which is about the running time of the episode. This episode ran longer than the previous two before it. I think the first one was like 52 minutes. And this one was almost, I think, 61 minutes or something to that effect. And that kind of discrepancy is something interesting to me, because I remember on our show, the format was very, the window was like 42, 43 minutes. It was very small, and there wasn't much leniency there. So I wanted to ask you about that leniency that you were given to kind of have more minutes.
Well, it's interesting because I've actually noticed that as well. Because I mean, when I got the script, it was a long script. We were always told it's streaming, so we don't have to like really worry about like having to stay within the first 42 minutes. However, I might be wrong, but in season 1, I think there was still airing on cable. So I think they ended up actually going. I might be wrong. They might I feel like they went with 42 minutes or something in season 1. But this season, 61 minutes, and it's crazy because I watched the episode earlier today and noticed like, oh wow, they still cut a lot out of it. It was still like a long script, and I will also say like I'm the type of person as a director where I do believe that like the moments between the words really matter. So I will always kind of I don't want to put this on my resume, but like literally like things I do will tend to run a little bit longer, just because I like to sort of like build those moments, those looks or whatever in between. I think those like mean a lot. But I was told with this episode, like, don't worry about it. Don't worry about the running time. Just make it. So I was surprised at 61 minutes as well.
Well, it didn't.
And he did it. Yeah.
There was no point where it felt like you got the okay from somebody above saying, go ahead and make it a little longer. Like there was no point that felt like it wasn't flowing perfectly. So if they had cut out 20 or 30 or 80 seconds, it would have hindered the story a little bit. It feels like it flowed perfectly and naturally. There were no points that dragged out too long in any way. I didn't notice anything at all. But I did want to bring up, just because everybody wants to know more about you, Amanda. You're a very successful director, and congratulations on that, and clearly well-deserved, working on shows like Nancy Drew a ton. You've also directed The 100, Doom Patrol, but especially everybody's like, yeah. But what has she done in Star Trek? Well, in season 1 of Strange New Worlds, you also did The Elysian Kingdom, which everybody knows as the fantasy episode, the big, elaborate, amazing
costumes.
Just to pivot for a half a second, can you tell us how much fun that was to just say, I'm going to direct Star Trek, and it's going to be about like knights and rogues and, and warriors?
I don't even honestly, still it feels like a dream. So I'm like, I've been into Star Trek since I was a kid. I've never really had any TV goals as a director, because no one gets in directing to direct TV, right? But I was like, well, if I'm doing TV like Star Trek one day, that would be fabulous. And so not only did I get to do Star Trek, I got to do what is, in my opinion, the best iteration of Star Trek since the Deep Space Nine, Voyager, TNG era. And beyond that, I got to make the fantasy episode, which is, I very much modeled that after, I made movies when I was a kid. Rukia, who I imagined that when she grew up, if she was able to grow up, she would have been a director one day. If you have those costumes or whatever, she has that. So I made that episode the way I would have made an episode when I was 11. And the way the camera moved, all of that was based on my instincts as an 11-year-old. And I love that episode so much, so much. That was such a wild, extraordinary thing to be a part of. And also for my first time being a part of Star Trek and realizing I'm contributing to this canon that is so massively important to me, and now I'm a part of it. It's still a trip. It's still very hard for me to believe that I did that and am doing that. It's pretty wild.
Wow, that literally was an amazing episode, and
we loved it.
It's one of the highlights of all of the new Star Trek. People are still buzzing about it. We just talked with the costume designer, with Bernadette, about some of the choices that were made in that episode as well. So it's fresh in our minds still. Fantastic job. Almost a complete opposite in some ways to this episode, which shows your versatility as a director, because this is on Earth, cars chases, this is something different. And you might be one of the few people that have actually incorporated a car chase scene in Star Trek, which is in itself a feat. But yeah, I love this, the way you had subtle moments that you mentioned earlier about non-verbal communication. There was a scene where La'an was looking at Kirk while he was sleeping on the sofa, and that just there's no words being exchanged, but it's very impactful about how they're feeling about each other. And he kind of wakes up and looks back and thinks, maybe I should do something. And I love that hesitation and that kind of quiet, nonverbal hint to the audience about how these characters are feeling for each other.
I love so much that scene resonated with you, because I actually, out of the entire episode, I love that sequence the most. I very much was basing it on sort of a noir sort of method of storytelling. It was a complicated episode. I did have 3 different directors of photography. It was a challenging episode, just logistically speaking. But from the get-go, I was like, okay, we're on Earth. Let's do something handheld, long lensy. Let's make it feel like in 1970s. Let's make it feel grounded. Let's feel the humanity, right? I didn't want to be in space. I wanted to feel like we were on Earth. There are humans here. We are surrounded with humans and culture and society. And that moment, I love that moment so much. I can't remember the movie. I think it was Good Girl Friday. Maybe it was Good Girl Friday, but it was a specific noir film where I remember, because I used to watch a lot of Turner Classic Movies when I was a kid, where the man falls asleep and you just see the light turn off when she was thinking of him. And it was just it's ships in the night, you know. It was this idea that he's feeling something, she's feeling something, but they're just missing each other by a millisecond. And it's that tantalizing thing that I just really wanted to build. And I'm so happy that you felt that, because I loved that sequence.
I thought it was one of the special moments in this.
That's Good Girl
I thought
Friday,
it was one of
right?
the special moments.
That is Good Girl Friday, yes.
But it resonated. The lighting was soft too. It was a night kind of soft lighting. You couldn't see details too much in the set. I love the choices that you made in that moment. I want to ask you about the loft apartment where the bridge explosion happens. I love the set design of that. I wanted to ask you specifically if that was done on a soundstage or on location at an actual residence with a green screen in the backdrop.
That was on location, and that was not a green screen. That is Toronto. It was very cleverly framed so that we could draw the bridge within the actual cityscape. So yeah, no green screen. You're actually seeing Toronto out the window. Just very cleverly placed actors.
Great location. That huge window. It just set the tone for the scene. I thought, wow, this is great. Where is this place? And I want to stay there, you know.
King West, you can go there.
Oh, really?
It's a nice hotel.
It's a hotel. Wow.
Yeah.
King West.
Yeah, I thought the same thing, Cirroc, when I saw that. I was like, that has got to be real. Like, there's no way that there's a blue screen or green screen back there. It looked amazing, and it felt like we weren't watching Star Trek for a moment, which I feel like might have been the goal in a lot of ways. You don't want to feel like, if you're off of that spaceship, if you're off of that deep space station, if you're off of that alien planet and you're on Earth, you want to feel like you are actually on Earth. And it really felt that way. And for me, the big moment for me was the very end when La'an calls Kirk. I don't have any emotions, but if I did, that would have thanks, Cirroc. That would have been one of the most touching and sweet moments I've ever seen in a Star Trek episode. It truly is. And I wonder if, when you read the script, with that moment and with the moment when La'an wakes up in the middle of the night, and comes over, were these the kind of moments that you read and you just fell in love with the script and were just thrilled that you got to do this one?
Yeah, I would say so. First of all, like Chrissy, who plays La'an, she is a wildly, wildly talented actor. And the main thing, the through line that I went with through this episode, which is that happens in the teaser, where it's talking about her loneliness and her isolation. And she is just this person who's like, she's a warrior. She's military. She's like, I have to be non-emotional this whole time. I have to go through it. But she's still, she's still human, to a degree. And I really for me, this whole episode was about somebody who has been denying their own loneliness, denying their own happiness forever, because that's what they've been raised into. That's what they've been taught. And then being able to have this moment of vulnerability on another planet, on another timeline. For me, that moment where she finally breaks down was really significant. And I remember talking to Chrissy throughout the entire episode, because there's lots of moments where a person, anyone, would cry, right? But I told her, I was like, you're not going to cry. Do not cry. The moment you cry is at the end of the episode. That's when you finally let yourself do it. That's when you can't stop, and it just has to happen. And I think that's why it feels so big, because she is someone who is she's got to be there, you know, she's got to be the boss. She's got to make sure she's got to save the world in any given moment. But to have that little moment of vulnerability because she likes somebody, you know, it's like this beautiful, innocent thing. And I just thought it was such a powerful message to anyone who's just trying to survive, you know, trying to survive for other people, trying to be the good person for other people. Those moments that you have to yourself, you realize, wait, I'm a person too, and I have needs too. I don't know. I just thought I think that her character is something that a lot of people in this particular world can very much relate to.
Yeah, and you know, I want to say that one of the things that we talk about often on this podcast is that there is a high degree of difficulty for making us, the audience, believe somebody falls in love with somebody in one episode.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and it's so hard to believe.
I feel like it's the toughest thing in Star Trek, I think.
Yeah, it is. Because, you know, we get used to the characters and then, you know, they go to a planet and then that person is their soulmate and all of a sudden they have to say goodbye or whatever. And it's just literally hard for us to kind of swallow that as the audience. However, I want to give you credit because you were able to pull that off, in my opinion, in this episode, which is I was completely, you know, resisting it. Oh, okay, Kirk, and yeah, all right.
Yeah. Here we go. We're not going to name episodes.
Right?
One episode, right?
I was gonna be okay, so it's going to be one of those. And the way it unfolded, credit to the writing as well. The way it unfolded was very subtle over time, and it wasn't oh, I'm so in love with you, I just met you a second ago and I just love you. It was very casual. It was the hot dog scene, it was the Old Testament scarlet letter kind of, and it reminded me of the genuine chemistry that human beings have when they meet people, and there's that one person that knows how to, you know, get under your skin or make you laugh or, you know, get rid of that exterior, that tough exterior that La'an has built up in this case. You know, he's able to penetrate her defenses, and where she's I got my shields up, nobody else is, you know, I'm not letting anybody in emotionally. And Kirk, and the way you filmed this episode, the pacing of it, allowed us to believe that, you know, these two people are caught in this circumstance and they basically only have each other. And it would make sense that they would start catching feelings. So I want to credit you for accomplishing that in this episode, Amanda.
Thank you. I can't tell you, I'm so happy that you spotted that because I am of the same opinion of you. I mean, I've done a bajillion CW shows where people are falling in love. I'm okay, fine, I guess. But with this one, it really felt for me, I read it and I was like, La'an needs to be in love. She's that's her first kiss. That's her first kiss ever.
I wrote it down. Yeah.
Wow.
That's the first time she's ever experienced a connection with somebody else, with another soul. And to me, that was such an interesting moment to convey, especially someone who hasn't experienced it because of trauma and life circumstance and all that kind of crap. And she's finally given this freedom. And it was to me, I'm this is actually the perfect platform for a love story. So I'm so happy that you got that, because that's what I read and that's what I understood from the script as well. I thought that's this is perfect. This I can believe.
Just to jump on that, and Cirroc and I have had many a joke at people's expense when by minute 8 they're ready to run away with each other, and we're well, let's take a minute,
slow down a little bit.
But obviously, the script needs to really be good for that to work for us. The directing, obviously, you were able to take your time with it. You were able to add little moments and allow the actors to do that. And I also want to just throw a little bit towards the actors for that, because the bottom line is, if the actors don't make us believe it, it's going to be really tough for us to swallow that as well. And they really did. There were those little moments that you really focused on for us. And I didn't know what to expect here. But when Kirk has his mouth full of hot dog, says, I'm going to go get another one. I even found myself going, oh, that's cute. I'm like, go get him, Lonnie. What a charming guy. He's got a mouthful of hot dog. I don't know why, but those little moments that you didn't rush through and that they were able to give us, I thought that worked really well. Was there any special direction that you gave to these actors, or did you feel like they kind of had a handle on it from the beginning?
Well, my biggest thing was, I mean, obviously, Paul is taking on a big role as Kirk. He's the third iteration of Kirk that we've ever seen. So obviously tons and tons of pressure onto that character. But I think what is innately written into these characters already was something that I think we all kept kind of playing with. Whereas like La'an is this very rigid rule follower. Let's like figure out the mission and go. Whereas like Kirk is like, wonder, I'm on Earth. Look at all this cool stuff. Oh my gosh, there's a pretty woman next to me. We can like flirt and have fun. And like he's just like the polar, he represents everything that La'an doesn't have. And it was like, for me, most of it was sort of playing off that juxtaposition, playing off the fact that she needs to chill out a little. And like maybe he needs to take things a little bit more seriously occasionally in some moments. And he's also the worst version of Kirk, right? Because he's the Kirk that's grown up in this dystopia. He didn't even grow up on Earth. Like I think the fact that this is Kirk who is on Earth for the first time, who is seeing things he's read about, and he still has that innate curiosity that Kirk has, like to have this boy of wonder who's always full of wonder and just like plant him on this thing he's always wanted to see, and then sit him next to like the most rigid, nervous person in the history of time. I mean, I think the love story is inevitable. But I also think like the fact that they were polar opposites was something that we played with like the whole time. That was 100% part of the story. And it's what attracted them to each other.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to also highlight another moment that I enjoyed about this episode. And that was the moment at which La'an is confronted with the decision to essentially erase her past and, be able to essentially kind of reinvent herself in a way by, opening that door and letting the killing of Khan kind of take place. It would change the timeline. And she rejects that. She wants to remain herself. And I thought that was a very big decision for just anybody who can either, run away from who they are or accept it as part of who they are and kind of learn how to move forward with it. And that was a big moment for me, just watching her make that decision.
Yeah, and I think that, like, for me, that relates to my favorite episode of Star Trek ever, which is Tapestry, which is where Picard realized, like, where
here's
he goes
my guy right here. Look at this. We've got we've got Lieutenant Junior Grade Picard right here. This is my favorite guy right here. Because I'm always referencing this episode, Tapestry. It's one of the greatest episodes of all time.
It's one of the greatest episodes of television.
Yes.
Ever made. Agreed. I saw that when I was a kid and it completely changed my perspective on life. And I like to me, that's what this is about. It's about La'an, like she's recognizing like, yeah, my relative is essentially Hitler. I'm part of this horrible, horrible legacy, but I wouldn't be who I am. I wouldn't know who I am if this doesn't exist. I can't pretend to have the authority to say, oh, if I just turned this switch, everything would be better. We don't know that. So I don't know. I think there's a lot of wisdom in La'an in that moment. I think it's a lesson that humanity has to kind of like constantly teach ourselves, is that it's important to learn from our mistakes, but we can't erase them. Like it's like, especially nowadays, it's kind of like you can have like a sordid past, but people are capable of change and growing, and your legacy doesn't have to define you, but you also can't get rid of it. You can't deny the fact that, like, I don't know, your families were Nazis or whatever. Like, I'm a white person. I'm Ukrainian, so we probably don't have that much bad in in our history. But like, if I found it, I would accept it. It's just I think it's important for people to be able to recognize that like long histories of humanity have existed before us. And we need to recognize, I don't know, what that means for our present. And
so you're always going to be known as the person who killed Kirk as well. So you're on that list now too, just for the record.
Good point.
Amanda, you killed Kirk.
Sorry.
You're like, well,
I didn't write it.
Not that Kirk. Not that Kirk.
I killed a Kirk. And this episode implies there are many Kirks.
I definitely loved it. I love the you snuck in the Kirk out in this episode, or they snuck it in. And just in general, I thought you got some really great performances out of the actors in this episode. The locations were great. They got us a real feel. I felt like I was, in Toronto. Some aerial shots were also inserted with the big tower. And you just really did a great homage for representing Toronto. And is this the first time Canada has been filmed in a Star Trek?
I feel like it. And it's about damn time. I thought that
100% the first time.
Thank God we're not back in LA again. Back in LA again. Every show of all time is like, we're back to mid-century Earth in Los Angeles. Then finally they said, hey, we're shooting in Toronto. Let's give Canada some love here.
Honestly, I loved it. I loved it so much as a Canadian, as a Trekkie. I will say, I'll give you when I got the script, obviously it'd been written like, oh, we're on the waterfront or whatever, like there's locations that are written into the script. But when they go to that restaurant, the Lakeview, and then they're walking outside Lakeview, I was like, I need to get one location in that's like not like tourist Toronto. That's not like the Lakeshore. That's not like downtown, not by the ROM or whatever. And the Lakeview is a restaurant that if you've watched any show ever, the Lakeview has probably been a location. Like the Lakeview has been in like a million movies and TV shows, but it's always a different restaurant. So I was like, wow, wouldn't it be funny if we just called it the Lakeview and we showed it for what it was, which is the restaurant that all Torontonians go to after 2 a.m. because it's open till 4. Ooh. You can go get poutine, you can go eat your food, whatever. I was like, this is the perfect. I thought there was this like special irony of being like, I'm also like, there's that shot where it's like Lakeview and like shows. It's like that's the first time I'm pretty sure in Canadian history where the Lakeview has been represented as the Lakeview on television, but it's so been on television for like 20 years.
Oh, that's so deep. That's a deep cut right there.
And I had them like walking around like Ossington and Queen, which is like, to me, Toronto's like, it's full of texture and graffiti, and it's kind of like, it's not dirty, it's just old and it's got history. And I like wanted to have like at least one like piece or like one scene. So them walking down those streets was like, okay, this is me, a Torontonian, showing you Toronto.
Well, it's great. We loved it. And I think that's so freaking meta. I love it. That's such a good.
It was super meta. And that was my intention. Yes.
Yeah. Well, Amanda, this has been so much fun. We really appreciate you taking the time today and joining us, giving us all these fun nuggets. This was such an extremely memorable episode. And I think it's going to go down as a very iconic and well-remembered episode in the annals of Star Trek history. But until that moment comes and we all look back on this one as one of our favorites ever, we do want to thank you very much for taking the time and joining us and giving us all of your thoughts and insights.
Thank you. Thanks for watching and enjoying. I love nothing more than a captive audience.
We love it. And we're looking forward to more from you, Amanda. You're doing an amazing job.
Mm-hmm.
I can't wait to show you.
Looking forward to it.
We're watching.
Oh, are you able to tell us if you will be directing a third season episode, actually, in that regard?
Because of the writer's strike, everything's shut on down. Hold right now.
And so you don't know?
Like I said, like I'm one of the lucky people to be working right now because all of the scripts came in before the strike. But yeah, I don't know. Hopefully.
All right. Yeah. Well, we're hoping. So far, you're 2 for 2. So we're loving it. Keep up the great work. Everybody stick around. We will be right back on the seventh rule. Well, hi there, everybody. Welcome back to the seventh rule with Cirroc Lofton.
Hello.
How cool is it that Cirroc Lofton is doing a Star Trek review show, by the way? Never get over that. That's the coolest damn thing. And really cool that Amanda Rowe joined us. She's an amazing person. She told us some pretty freaking awesome stories during the break just now. Really cool. Hopefully she will be directing a lot more episodes in the future. Yeah. Here are the trivioids of the week, everybody. Commander Pelia still has a bunker in Vermont in case this no money socialist utopia thing turns out to be a fad. Lieutenant La'an didn't come to the party for Una in the captain's quarters. James T. Kirk is a captain in the United Earth Fleet. Kirk thinks Toronto is New York. That was funny. Kirk has never seen a revolving door before. Kirk is good at chess. Well, there's a lot of Kirk stuff. La'an has heard stories about James T. Kirk, and he spent 6 months in a Denobulan prison. He can also make plomeek soup in the toilet, but this is all like alternate universe Kirk. Sam Kirk's real first name is George, and Khan's legacy is genocide, torture, and La'an. That was a pretty powerful moment when she said that. So,
yeah,
this one was, it really did have that twist at the end where I was like, when she called Kirk and she just had that moment of, just basically she'll make anything up. She just wants to see him. She just wants to meet him. She just wants to hear his voice. That was very beautiful. That was very powerful. She didn't have to say anything, and then she breaks down. She cries afterwards. That is going to be an iconic moment in Star Trek history. I think that was really good.
Yeah. Her performance was exceptional. That scene was amazing at the end. Her breakdown just kind of was the climax of the episode, and she was really saving her best performance for that last phone call scene, which I thought was just like an encapsulation of kind of the emotions that she's suppressed over over her lifetime, really, and all of this stuff that just finally came to a head in that last scene. I thought that was a wonderful scene.
Oh, you know what?
Of course, Kirk doesn't know what's going on, so he's oblivious to yeah, sure, buy me a drink.
It was really cool when he said, hey, when he made the very good point, which was, why would I want to change the future? Then I lose my friends. I lose my life. Because you think about it from her point of view, she wants to fix the timeline, whatever. But he's like, well, if I do that, then my life ceases to exist. Why the hell would I? Nobody would do that. And that was really interesting conundrum there. And I'm sure the writers in the writers' room were very pleased when they broke the story, and they're like, okay, if he dies, though, it works. Now we can restore it because he's not there. There isn't that, that conundrum or that moral play of La'an's going to say, no, I have to change the timeline. And he's going to say, I don't want to. Then what are they going to do? Fight? She's going to have to defeat him, So this was really a good way to do this, having him die, because then we feel the loss. She feels the loss. But there's still Kirk in the regular universe. You know what I mean? So it worked out in every way. Yeah.
And that timeline, Kirk is now missing their captain.
Yeah, that's
the
true.
United Earth Fleet, Kirk, which was interesting that they, they took a spin on Starfleet, made it something different, and called it the United Earth Fleet. Had the different insignias on their lapel. I thought that was pretty cool as well. Small details like that were just made this interesting to watch, because there were small little things that were incorporated. I thought some of the corridor scenes, like when that time traveler first appears in the corridors while La'an is walking, the way it was filmed looks so just original to me. Almost like I hadn't seen it before, even though I know they'd used the same corridors in many shots. But just the way it looked just felt so grandiose and just
It felt
detailed.
spacious and clean and
Yeah,
sleek. It just, yeah, it kind of hit me too, where I was like, wow, it looks kind of like bigger and more
bigger.
open and
Yeah,
more high tech or something. I don't know. Felt more like an Apple store in the best possible sense of like no clutter. You know, it's just big and clean and sharp. But what
yeah,
you were saying, about the United Earth, I believe that's what they called it in Discovery as well, and like their way in the future in like the 32nd century or something like that, there was a United Earth as well. So this is something that kind of slithers in and out of Star Trek timelines. Some timelines we have this United Earth, other timelines we don't. Some, eras. So it's really interesting that they're using, similar terms that we might recognize. Also, something I should have brought up when Amanda was around was this episode reminded me very much of a Next Generation two-parter called Time's Arrow, which is focused on Captain Picard and Guinan. It's a very good Guinan episode. And Guinan, the Guinan character was like the Pelia character here, where he goes way back in the past and she's there. And so there's a very clear parallel with the Time's Arrow episodes and with this one. And I really, when they saw Pelia and when they made that connection in this episode, that's when I feel like this episode hit a different level for me. I was like, I really liked that added layer and that added moment. And then at the end, when La'an walks in her leather jacket, in her regular garb, Pelia kind of gives her a look. And I think it's beautiful that not a word was said. But us as the viewers, we're thinking, I wonder if Pelia knows what just happened. Because in Pelia's past, she has met La'an. And she never said anything. But now La'an walks back in and she looks at what she's wearing and she goes, ah. And I hope we're going to get some kind of conversation about that in later episodes.
I hope so too. That would be a great follow up. Yeah, this episode was just laced with a lot of stuff for me. I like the sparring scene between La'an and Mbenga at the beginning. I thought
Now
he
that
said some very
we know he's
yeah
like a legit fighter,
yeah
like he's
yeah
crazy. He's so
he's
good.
crazy, and he's like, no, I just used your energy against you and all that stuff. But I thought it was great to see him in that opening scene. I loved his line when he says, "As your sparring partner, I recommend you talk to your physician." Because she's like, "You're not here as my physician. You're here as my sparring partner," and that was a great comeback for him.
Mm-hmm.
I just love that part of it. The whole you never been through a revolving door to Kirk, just little moments like that. Um, the leather jackets where they're both wearing the same leather jacket. He comes out of the fitting room. That was funny. The whole shoplifting kind of like put something in her bag or something. They just put a lot of little tiny moments in there that showed them building chemistry together, right? And sharing moments together. And that's why those tiny little moments, the whole playing chess in the park for money. Those
Yeah.
tiny moments lent credibility to me believing that they had enough of a shared experience that they recognized things in each other that they were attracted to and were feeling emotional about each other. That's the hot dog scene that you mentioned earlier when he says, "I'm going to go back and get another hot dog." I thought that was another just well casually played moment by the actor who plays Kirk.
Mm-hmm.
And by the way, Amanda gave a little bit of a hint about this, but I want to just kind of highlight it again. She mentioned the pressure that's on this actor's shoulder to play Kirk. And I have to second that because even as I'm watching it, I'm always kind of measuring him up to my vision and version of Kirk. And it's unfair to this actor to always have that in the back of people's head when they look at him and his performance, always say, "Well, no, that Kirk wouldn't say it like that," or "Kirk would have flirted with her a lot sooner," or "Kirk would have done this, Kirk would have done that." And I'm guilty of it too. It's just a natural instinct, I think, when you have when you have a set idea of somebody who's been kind of burned into your memory.
Especially somebody so iconic. It wasn't just like a little side character,
It is. And also, to Ethan Peck's credit, he has overcome that for me. It took a while, but in my head canon, I no longer measure him up against Leonard Nimoy like I am now currently measuring up this actor playing Kirk versus Shatner. The pressure is more on him now, and I guess after time and I get used to him and his mannerisms, that will fade away. But like it has for me with Ethan Peck. When I watch Ethan, I think of him as Spock. I don't have to think of Spock's original performance and measure it up against his anymore. He's kind of won me over in that department.
When I first saw Kirk, I was guilty of that as well, because like I'm such a simpleton. I'm like, his hair color's too dark. What? That's not Kirk. His hair color's black. What the? That's how simple I am, right? But yeah, he also doesn't act like him. And if I were to try to compare him in any way, I would say that he certainly does act a lot more like Christopher Pine's Captain Kirk. He acts more like Chris Pine's Kirk. But I think the key is, and I think this is what they would all say, is this is a different version of Kirk. This is a new actor. They don't want it would do the actor and the audience a disservice if he were to do an impression of Kirk. Even though that's what we think we want, we actually don't want that, because it would just, nobody can actually act like Kirk the way Shatner did. If they tried, it would just be disingenuous. It would be a comedy. It would be silly. So just don't be that Captain Kirk. Be your own Kirk. The writing will still give us that charm. The writing will still give us the twinkle in the eye. The writing will still give us the type of character he was. The actor can interpret that in his own honest acting way. And, thank God they're doing it that way, because if he tried to act like Kirk the way we know him, it would be a shit show. It wouldn't work.
La'an, tell me, why do you think I should help you?
Maybe they could do that in one comedy episode where they become caricatures of themselves, or there's something there. I don't know, but because that would be funny.
We would. No, we wouldn't want to see it. And ironically, we think we want to see it. Like you said, like my mind tells me, oh no, you want to see a younger version of the actual Kirk, and with the same mannerisms and the same sparkle in his eye, but no, I actually prefer it this way. And it actually, after time, and you start watching the episode, that thing goes away in your head. In the beginning, it hits you instantly, like, okay, Kirk's here now. Let's see how good his Kirk is. And then after a while, I'm like, all right, he's just doing it his way. Just leave the guy alone.
There was also incredible scoring throughout this episode. There are a couple scenes that really, one of the great scoring scenes was when they were in young Khan's room. When she comes and she sees young Khan towards the end. It's great scoring there. And there was another scene earlier on that had excellent scoring that I made a note of. I'll find it later. But something I did notice when we're talking about the writing was this does raise that really big question. People have asked this before. If you went back in time and you saw baby Hitler, would you kill baby Hitler? Because the answer is, well, if you killed baby Hitler, in theory, you're saving millions and millions of people in the future, as far as we know. But at that point in time, you're just killing a baby, So there is that question that's being asked, and I feel like they asked that question here, but with one giant saving grace, because I think most people would say, yeah, you kill baby Hitler. You take your lumps, you do something horrible for the betterment of mankind, theoretically. And I feel like the writers may have come into an issue where they said, if she goes and she sees 9-year-old Khan, who is like a Hitler type of character, and she does not kill him, that's going to rub a lot of people the wrong way. They're going to say, wait a second. If she killed him, she could have ended a ton of suffering for a lot of people. You know, I feel like there'd be a problem there with the reaction. So what they did was beforehand, they added that one character. They didn't tell us what that character's name is, but the lady that was a Romulan, played by
Sarah.
Adelaide Kane. Oh, Sarah. Okay. Adelaide Kane. They explained in a previous scene, and I'm sure this was the writers getting out of this conundrum, where she said the horrible things that Khan did led Earth to create, to unite and create the Federation to defend against things like this. So that was them saying, this is kind of like their get out of jail free card, which is, it ended up doing more good because it created the Federation because of it and the countless lives they saved. So I feel like that was their way to work around it in a way that works, that totally made sense.
Yeah. You know, those are all hypotheticals, and it's hard to, you know, we always play out things in a very kind of simple way, right? Oh, well, if we take out baby Hitler, then, you know, the whole thing changes. But things are more complex than that.
Totally.
Just because the responsibility, and yes, he eventually became what he became, that's not to say that somebody else wouldn't feel those shoes.
Exactly. Who's to say somebody else wouldn't have done the exact same thing at that moment in time?
Right. So, you know, instead of him being the first place winner, the second place winner will become the first place winner. And so
maybe worse.
That person maybe does worse stuff. So that's the, you know, that's the balance. Like people talk about, for example, in today's headlines, where Putin is a big source of conversation, and everybody talks about Vladimir Putin. The question then becomes, if you remove him, then who steps up in his place, and then has this nuclear arsenal at their disposal. And so, you know, we think we're getting a better deal, but it doesn't necessarily always work in that way.
How many times in history have we knocked out a terrorist leader or some kind of number one enemy, only for that person to be replaced by somebody that is even worse, but now has an even stronger vendetta against you? You know what I mean? So you never know.
So it doesn't always happen to the effects. The results are not always going to play out and pan out the way that you think. Oh, well, if I take out baby Hitler, then World War II doesn't happen. That's not necessarily the case, because there were other factors. There's other people that could rise to the power. There's so many things that are moving parts at play, that it's not just because of one person. And so yeah, but the idea is always a long-standing one, in which people always kind of revisit, like especially when it comes to time travel, which is another thing that this episode falls under the category of. It falls under the category of time travel. It falls under the category of visiting Earth. You know, it falls under the category of alternate timelines. So
love story.
Love story. These are long-standing themes, Star Trek themes, and this one has a lot of those themes in it.
Yeah, and I really liked again their use of Pelia. I feel like they did all of those things, plus they added some layers. You know, because they didn't need Pelia in this episode. They could have done this without Pelia, but adding it gave us an extra layer, an extra storyline, some extra depth. We had car chases, we had like a little bit of everything. And we did get some Kirk charm. We did. He was funny, and that was the writing, and it was the acting. He did do the role justice.
I want to say also, with respect to Kirk, there are things that they've updated about Kirk that I think are for the good. Some of the male chauvinism that we've talked about now, watching these older episodes and, watching how those stereotypes have been played out in the past. I'm glad they flushed that kind of stuff out of the Kirk character.
That wouldn't fly.
Because it's,
he just shows up and he's like, "Hey, I guess it's just you and me, huh? Hey, you wanna let's get a room together? There's only one bed." And she'll be like, "You're on the couch." He'll be like, "Couches are lumpy."
So thank God that they have updated some of those things, because some of those things are too dated, and I thought Pelia had a great line too, by the way. She says, "I haven't taken a math class since Pythagoras made that stuff up." That was hilarious to me.
Yes, very good. That was funny. Good knowledge there. And that was just to add to the Pelia thing, though. I forgot about that, but they also set her on the engineering course. So when she looks back and they say, "What got you into engineering?" she'll say, "Well, 200 years ago, I was visited by a couple people and they needed an engineer. I wasn't one, but they discovered something within me that set me on that course." Another layer. That stuff is really good. That's got to be so much fun when you're in the writer's room coming up with this stuff. Somebody gets that idea and everybody stops and goes, "That's pretty fucking good, man." Because it is.
Yeah, that's good. It is good. And then even like the whole tritium inside of the watch and the diver's watch thing, I don't know if that's true or not, but it sure sounded damn good, and I liked it. And I thought that added like a little MacGyver to this episode too. Like, if we just had this watch, it will glow. I thought that was a cool touch. And just the moments, like, we mentioned the whole Scarlet Letter, and she's like, "You never heard of the Old Testament?" And Cain, and he's like, "No, I'm just playing with you." I love those moments. And the first kiss was also another big thing that Amanda kind of, revealed to us. Yeah, that is her first kiss, at least one we've seen. So it's a big moment.
That's going to set up a lot for future episodes, and that's what Strange New Worlds does so well. We've talked about this before. Is the storylines don't carry over from episode to episode like serialized television, but the character arcs do. So yes, you could watch the 15th episode without having watched the first 14. Sure, you could do that like you do with, say, Next Generation or Deep Space Nine, the first few seasons. But, and you could miss episodes, and the storyline is fine because each episode is a different storyline, but you'll lose something in the character arcs. You won't know why in, episode 206, why La'an stops for a moment when she sees Kirk is visiting the bridge and talking to Pike or whatever it is. Like, there's going to be a moment where this is going to pay off, where they're going to have a mission or Kirk's going to be doing something, and La'an is going to have some kind of hesitance or like she's going to stop and have a long lingering look at him, and Kirk's not going to know why. Nobody in that universe is going to know why, but the audience is going to know why. It's great.
Yeah, there's going to be a big payout. Also, there was a moment on the bridge when La'an comes wearing that leather outfit, and Pike says, "How come you're not in uniform?" or something to that effect. Mm-hmm. And Celia, as Uhura, does the greatest turnaround look move I've ever seen. She does one of those like, "What?" Like she's like, "What? She ain't wearing her stuff. What?" And she
Is this
turns around
casual? I
like,
didn't know it's casual Friday. I'm in
she's
these
like,
hard ass boots.
That look was classic to me. I was like, go ahead, Celia. She did one of those sister girl moves. Like, I know she ain't up in here wearing that.
Yeah.
It was a great look, and I loved it.
I noticed that actually at that moment, what I thought too was that like a lot went through my mind about what we've learned with, say, like Denise Crosby on The Next Generation, where she was saying, hey, is this all it's going to be? Like, there are going to be some episodes where I'm not featured, where I just have 2 lines. And Gene Roddenberry said, yeah, that's true. There are going to be some, it's not going to get any better. You're going to have some episodes about you. You're going to have a lot of episodes that are not about you. And I was thinking about that when I saw Uhura's look on the bridge, actually, because I was like, this is their way of still incorporating the characters and still giving them a little bit more to chew on, because Uhura is going to be on the bridge there. And so is Melissa Navia, Ortegas. She's going to be on the bridge there, And so when things happen, even if the episode's not about them, they can still have good moments. And, and Amanda Rowe, just told us that she did have the free reign to, give us a second on those moments, and it looks like it paid off great, because we both noticed it.
Yeah, I thought it was a great moment because this is like, it's like a teammate thing. It's like, when you guys are close like that, that's the kind of reaction you would give. It's like, girl, what the hell are you doing over here? It was, it felt natural to me. So yeah, I mean, there were a lot of moments that I can take away from this episode and say, wow, this was good.
Mm-hmm.
This was good.
Yeah, we're just about out of time here. I did want to point out very quickly that I'm personally going to push for a non-appearance mention tally for Noonien Soong, because there was that fun little joke when he says, oh, sorry, La'an Noonien Soong. He doesn't know who Noonien Soong is, and she corrects him and says Sing. But Noonien Soong is Data's father, the guy that created Data. So that was a nice little wink and a nod that Kirk, in mispronouncing La'an's name, was actually pronouncing the name of Data's father. So I'm going to say that's a non-appearance mention because Homer's not here to tell us it's not, right? But Adelaide Kane, the actress that played Sarah, she was great. When they first announced her months ago as an actress in the new season of Strange New Worlds, I believe she's Australian. I think she is, which is funny to have a name like Adelaide when you're Australian. It's like an American named Atlanta or something, But for some reason, I thought it might be Nurse Chapel's sister because she's also Australian. I don't know. I make shit up in my head, but I was way off. She played this role beautifully. Just want to say I was very wrong there.
Yeah, she did play it great. And actually, there was a moment there after she was shot and she pressed that self-disintegrate button. I thought that was another cool visual effect. Just like,
that was crazy.
Yeah, like no evidence of me being here. Pink.
Yeah, it was awesome. Anyway, lots of great stuff. And everybody at home, there's much more to talk about. So we hope you are continuing that conversation in the live chat and in the comments below. Please make sure that you are giving this video a like. If you're listening in, give us a 5-star rating and leave us some comments. And please make sure you're subscribed to this channel. If you're not subscribed to this channel, come on, it's free. Hey.
And let us know your middle name. Is it Tiberius, George, Sam, Benedict, Augustus?
Augustus. That's a good one. Yeah, Wayun. A lot of people make that joke about me. They're like, hey, Ryan Tias, what's the T stand for? Tiberius? Man, I can't tell you how many times I've heard that. but it's a good one, I guess. Anyway, we can't all be as cool as Cirroc Lofton and not have a middle name. He's like Cirroc. There's no confusion. There's no other Cirroc Lofton.
That's all you get.
No middle name needed. All All right, well, let's give a special thanks to some people who also don't have a middle name. And their names are Homer Frizzell, Dr. Anne-Marie Segal, Eve England out in Wales, Yvette Blackmon-Tom, TJ, Jackson-Bey out in Missouri, Bill Victor Arucan definitely has a middle name.
Arucan.
He definitely does. Titus Mohler, so does Darlena Marie Blender, Dr. Mohamed Noor, Tierney C. Dieckmann, there's a hint there too, Anna Post, Anil O. Polat, Joe Balsarotti, Mike Gu, Dequeue, Neal, Akasaka, Justine Norton-Kertson, Dr. Stephanie Baker, Carrie Schwent, Faith Howell, Edward Foltz, live from Tokyo, the Matt Boardman, Chris McGee, Justin Weir, Jake Barrett, Jane Jorgensen, Henry Unger, Allison Leach-Heid, Julie Manisfee, Nikki T, and of course, Dr. Susan V. Gruner and Jason Okun. Everybody let us know your middle names in the comments. That'll be a fun one. Guess that's about it for us, right?
Yeah, sweet.
Strange New Worlds keeps
tomorrow.
They just keep killing it for us. Great stuff. Great stuff. Yeah. Very happy with it. All right, everybody. Thanks so much for joining us. Very special thanks to Amanda Rowe for joining in and for Chris Fisher for being so radical for us. We will see you all very soon. And until next time, always remember the 7th rule.